Hey guys, welcome back to this episode where we are going to be looking at how to start writing code, so how to make your first file, and we're also going to be looking at variables. So let's get straight into this. If you guys haven't already, make sure to download the Eclipse software. You guys can watch episode 0, and when you guys are done that, you guys can come back. If you guys have already set it up, good job. And let's get straight into this. So the first thing we want to do is here, go to Package Explorer, right click, New, Java Project. Java likes to make folders, which it calls projects, and it likes to put all of your Java class files inside to bundle them up. And we're going to get more into class files in a few seconds, but so basically, let's say you're making an app and you have multiple files which communicate with one another. This way you can put them all in a project. But for us, we're going to be making files which are really unrelated, but we can just call this anything. So just for simplicity, I'm going to call this coding central files, finish. So here we have our project. So here's your system library. Don't worry about that. Go to source, right click, new, class. Class is basically the file that you write your code in. Class is basically your main Java file. So you want to click class. And here it says it wants a name. As tradition, we're going to name it Hello World as it's our first piece of code. Finish. So here it is, right here. These are your three areas you're going to use the most. You're going to use your console, you're going to use your text area, and you're going to use the file explorer. So here's your class. Your class name must match your file name. For example, if I take the D away, it's going to give me an error here. It says, no, don't do that, because it has to be the same. So now next what we need to do is, this up here is your class header. And between these two curly brackets, this is your body, your class body. So don't worry about what all of these mean right now. We're going to get into this later when we do abstraction and encapsulation and all these things. But for now, don't worry about it. Public just means that whenever somebody imports your class, that they can access this class. Class indicates that this is a class. So, but we can't just start writing code right away. We have to do one thing before. Before we can start writing code, we have to create a main function. So we're going to have a whole episode on functions, but for now, just know that we need to write the following. So we need to write our function header because Java is going to look inside your class and it's going to go inside your main function and run whatever's inside. So public static void main string capital S, make sure it's capital. Java is very, very keen on these things. Square brackets and then args. And now we need a curly bracket, press enter, and it's going to add the other one automatically. So this is your main function. So whenever you run this file, it's going to run this. Right now, we don't really have anything inside, so nothing's going to happen. Once again, if somebody has access to your Hello World class and they import it, they can also access your main function because it's public. Don't worry about static. We're going to get into this later. Void just means that we're not returning anything. This function isn't returning anything. But once again, don't worry. So let's just write a simple statement first. A statement is basically like a command that Java is going to perform. So if I write system.out.println, and then I write inside here, you can write what you want to say. You want the console to print out. So what it's saying is it's telling the system that we're going to be outputting something. As you can see here, a standard output stream. And we're going to be printing something, and we're going to be printing it on a line. So only one line. I'll show you examples of this later. So first, we can write what we're here to do. Hello world. Make sure semicolons. Java is really keen on semicolons. That's one of the main parts of its syntax. Without the semicolon, it's not going to run. So if I take out the semicolon, it's going to give me an error. It's going to say I was expecting a semicolon to complete this block statement. So there we go. This is a statement. Java is going to look at this. It's going to say, okay, we're printing something. What are we printing? Whatever's inside these brackets. And because we're printing out letters and alphabets, we create a string. This is a string. So if we run this, strings are notated with quotation marks. You can see here it prints hello world. So what happens if we have two of these? We have hello world and we say coding central. You run this once again, hello world, then coding central. But as I said before, this is print line. If I take away the line and just do print, we see that it does hello world, then it does coding central. It doesn't skip a line because this is one of the built-in methods that Java has. So if you guys ever want to, so it's a good idea whenever you're going to code something, you want to make sure you see and check what type of built-in functions Java has. So yeah, so these are very basic statements. This is how you print to your console. Print line, as we've seen, skips a line, so it does hello world, then the ln indicates skip line, and then coding central. That's a very basic example of a statement. Now we're going to look at variables. So what is a variable? So a variable is basically like a box. It's a box which you can put something inside, but you can only put one thing inside. You can put a number, a letter, a alphabet. You could put any object inside a variable. You can put, let's say, a dog or a cat or an animal or anything. You can put anything inside that box. If you wanted, you could put another box inside that box. So for example, for Java, when we're creating a variable, it wants to know what type of object you will be putting inside that box. So for example, let's say I wanted this computer to store my age. So first I would say, okay, so here's a tip. Whenever we're coding and we want to write a note to ourselves and we don't want it to run, we can do 2 slashes. This is called a comment. This is crucial to computer science. If you're working with others, you are working in an environment where you'll be working with others and you want to communicate your code and what it means, you want to use comments. This is crucial. So what are some types of variables? We have integers, and Java calls these int. And for example, these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -1, -2, -3, and it could go up to -1 million or something. And it can go up to +1 million. So basically, it's all of your real numbers. So that's one type of variable. Remember, because it's a comment, it will not run and nothing will happen. So next, we have double. And Java calls this double with a lowercase. This is a double. Double is basically anything with a decimal point. So 1.1, 0.10, or 0.1, 1.3, 6.72, 0.0001. It could also be negative 1.1. So even if you put 1.0, that's also considered a double. So next we have strings. Next we have strings. Strings are basically notated just by string. And strings are basically combinations of alphabets and characters. So it could be anything inside as long as it's between quotation marks. So you could put quotation mark, you can write apple, we can write banana. We can even put the number 1, but as long as it's between quotation marks, it's a string. We can also have empty strings. We can also have strings with only a space inside. These are all considered strings. As long as you have the quotation marks, you have strings. Next is Boolean. And Java notates Booleans with Boolean. And with Boolean, there's only 2 possible values that Boolean can be, and it's true or false. So these are some very simple types of variables that we are going to be looking at. So how do we implement these variables? So let's say they want Java to store my age. So age is a number. It's not a decimal place. So we're going to say, okay, what is inside my box? We are going to put an integer, a number inside the box so we can store it. But what is the box called so we can refer to it? It is called my age. And then once again, semicolon for syntax to indicate that that's the end of our statement. Now we want to assign an age. So there's two ways of doing this. We can say my age equals to, let's throw a number out there, 35. My age equals to 35. And there we go. So now, if we were to refer to my age, it would give us 35. So for example, let's just use the print function here and let's print my age. You can do that. Java will print anything. It will print an integer, anything you put inside these brackets. So now let's print. So let's run this. There we go, 35. So it's working. But there's also another way to do this. You could instead, you can put this initialization and this assignment statement together, and you could put it together like that. You could say my box is going to hold integers. The name of my box is my age, so we can refer to it by my age. And what goes inside our box? 35. This is totally valid. So for example, if we want to do this with something else, doubles, we can say double. And what's something that could be a decimal? Maybe my wallet or my bank account. So bank account. And what do we put inside my bank account which holds doubles? Let's say in my bank account I have 50 cents. There you go. We've now assigned 50 cents into the box called bank account. There we go. So now we have this. It's going to put these together so we can see. Comments are really nice so you can see what you're doing and you can get examples and communicate to people who are looking at your code. So string. What's an example of a string? A combination of alphabets or letters or words or something. So for example, let's say name. So we can say string. You see that string doesn't really highlight and become blue or purple like the others, but this is how you're supposed to do it. So you can say string, and what type of string? String name. So we've said, okay, we have a box. This box is called name, and it holds string type variables. And what are we going to put inside the box? We are going to put coding central. So now we have that. So, and once again, Boolean. Boolean is anything that's true or false. What can be true or false? It's true that this is coding central, so we can write this is coding central and true. Java likes you to write it in lowercase, so there we go. And one thing you might notice is whenever I have more than one word, so let's say I have bank and an account, or this is coding central. Oh, that should be lowercase. What I like to do is I like to use camel caps. Camel caps is this way where if you have multiple words, you basically capitalize the beginning of each word, but the first one's always lowercase. So my is lowercase, and then capital A for age, and then G. This is called camel caps. This is a style of writing your variables. So now we've initialized these variables here. So we have 4 different boxes. One box holds booleans, and one box holds strings, one box holds a double, and one box holds holds age. So how can we use these, and how are they useful? For example, I'm just going to finish this off by making an example here. Here we said hello world coding central. Let's just remove the coding central one here. And we can add a system.out.println here. And inside here we can say this is. So what Java is going to do is it is going to say, okay, so in the system we're going to be outputting something in the output stream. We're going to be printing on it on a line. And we're going to print this is. What if we want to say this is coding central? We already have coding central stored as a variable. It's called the name. So we can say this is plus name. So this is what Java will do. It'll say, okay, system.out.println, we're going to be printing something, but what are we going to print? It's going to take everything inside these 2 brackets. It's going to take this. It's going to evaluate this. It's going to take this is, and it's going to take name, because name is also a string. It's going to add it to it, and it's going to output. This is coding central. But we notice something. There's no space. There's no space because this is starts from a T and ends with an S. And then we're adding Coding Central, which also starts with a C. So we're taking this and adding it to this, and there's no space in the middle. So how do we fix this? There's two ways. We could make another addition sign and add a space manually. So this is Coding Central. Or we could just add a space after this is. Both ways work. This is Coding Central. So this is how we've taken a variable, a box. We've said, okay, this is, and we're going to add whatever's inside the name box. So it goes into the box. It picks out Coding Central. It takes this is, Coding Central, puts it together, and then pushes it out to the system. So it can be outputted. So this is it. This is pretty cool. But not just that, we could also concatenate. This is called concatenation. I'll write it down at the bottom here. Concatenation. This plus sign right here, that's when you're joining two things together. We can also concatenate integers and strings. So we can also write, if we were to write bank account here, it would also add it together because it's printing it. Printing it doesn't really care if you can add it together. So it will do that. So we're going to get more into how to add and subtract, and we can manipulate strings in maybe the next episode. So for now, you guys have a brief understanding of how to create variables and how you can use them to print it out. So this is all for today. See you guys in the next episode.